stringing this Gravity Pro here, which is a 1820, and 1820s historically are the most stubborn on getting cross strings to stay straight even as you're stringing. So it's always important. I like to get them as straight as I can before I even tension. So as you see there, I pushed these up a little bit, and then I'll weave the one ahead. And then pull slowly here, don't want to kink the string. All right, now I was about to pull this next string. I try and get it as lined up as I can with the grommet, if I see the space. So that looks pretty good. And then I'll pull tension, make sure that it's straight. Clamp off here. What I like about these 4 tooth clamps as well, if you watched my last video that I upgraded my machine to these, is that you can clamp pretty close to the frame and you won't interfere with the mains. So as you can see now, once I released the tension, there was a little bit of drawback, but it didn't affect the mains. So that'll help at the end with less straining of your mains as well. So that's a good plus to these 4 tooth clamps from the Prince machine. All right, so we're just working our way down here. And slowly. Again. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Hold it in place. Make sure tension is reached. See how it came back? It didn't affect the mains. That's good. Now that untensioned string, we'll push it up a little bit. And we'll just repeat this process for a little while till we get to the end. All right, so we're going here again. Looks pretty good. Push that up. Always want to weave in a diagonal into the open space. It's easier on the weave, less friction. Of course, we all know that. Straight line, and not too bad. Closer. Cool. good. Yeah. So now it's getting a little bit tight here, so and there's a little bit of room here. I could, if I wanted to force it and do that, I could. But I think with the drawback and then the recovery, I'm not going to worry too much about that little bit of space there. As I get really close here, probably to the second to last and the last cross, I'll switch the weaving method. As you can see, I'm pulling at the moment, which I like to kind of switch up the weaving methods depending on the racket and the string. With polyester, usually pulling works the easiest, especially if it's shaped or rough. You don't want to deal with having to push that. I mean, lots of people do, and it's fine for them. But for me, it's just easier to pull towards me. This is a Technofiber Razor Soft 17 gauge. So it's not too rough, but I'm just sticking with the pulling. Yep. Right. The string bed's getting tighter down here, so the strings are staying more easier in a straight line. All right. This might be one of the last. I'll do the pulling on. The next method that's kind of easier in tight scenarios. It's kind of like a knitting stitching, kind of modified rather. Excuse me. All right, got a little bit extra slack here. There we go. It's just enough. All right, yep, so we have 2 left. So what I'm gonna start doing is make sure I start over. So what I kind of like to do is you could do things this way, this kind of stitching. If the handle would get out of the way. Doing kind of one at a time like that. I'm gonna make sure I actually have enough here to. Okay, yeah. Just enough. So I got most of that out of the way before I tension the string, just to kind of help, because now this is even tighter. More friction. So to prevent that, yeah, I'll go under there. There we go. And I probably won't have enough, so I'll just tension this second to last cross. Let it sort itself out. I'll go right here. And then here, I came out under on this string, so I want to go under this blocked hole here. I want to make sure that it looks nice and uniform. Oops. And this string we're starting under. So I'm going to pull a good chunk of that through. And I'm going to do that, sort of that same kind of slide and one string at a time. What I also like to do, aside from that, is this one's really like more of like a knitting. Is I'll get, so over here, I'm gonna go under the string. I'll just work with the tip like this and kind of make sure it's pointing up. I'll kind of like, that's really kind of like more of a knitting. So see that again. If you have a short length of string and you need to work in a tight space, keep it pointing up like that. And it's kind of easier to get through in tight spaces, and you don't bend the string or twist it that much when you do it like that either. So that's nice. And we're up on that one, so that's good. All right, last cross, you do not tension. Make sure we're good here. 10% on the knot function. I usually just do 10%. And we can tie off right here. Might be a little bit of a tight space, but we can make it work. Go back up here. Parnell knot. It's usually my go-to knot. Sure, looks nice and good up here. Yep. You just do a little 2 gentle rocks back and forth, getting as much slack out there as you can, and just a little tug on that final tail. Clip it off. And then what I like to do is lock the table when I'm doing this, and then also flatten out the tail, because sometimes it can get a little pointy, especially with polyester. The last thing you want is your customer hurting themselves basically on your watch. So, because that happened to me one time ago. Someone's from my racket, they cut their tail, and it was a pretty sharp and long end, and I ended up cutting my finger. So that wasn't fun. But all right. So, because of the clamp and how I clamped them going, the crosses going down, the mains did not move too much at all. If anything, just very slightly. As we know, the mains tend to bow in a little bit, so we want to just make sure we get them back out. Look at it from the handle up. Looks pretty good. And if we look at the crosses, yeah, I mean, it looks pretty good. I want to do just a little bit of setting off all work here. That one could use a little bit. And then we'll take it off and do the rest by hand if needed. I'm pretty OCD about this part though, so I tend to move a lot of strings that don't need moving. But yeah, looks pretty good.